Bite into a fresh acorn and your mouth can turn dry almost instantly. That sandpaper feeling comes from tannins binding to proteins in your saliva. Yet across much of the northern hemisphere, people turned acorns into a reliable food source by grinding them and washing away the bitterness. And acorns were only the beginning. Honey could disrupt the heart. One part of a pufferfish could cause paralysis. Cassava could feed an entire family or expose them to cyanide if someone cut the process short. These foods didn't become safe because ancient humans had stronger bodies. They became food because people remembered the exact steps that stood between nourishment and poison. So how did humans learn rules where a single mistake could be fatal? You open a jar of honey, tear off a piece of bread, or lift food from a plate. Nothing tells you to stop. That is one of modern food's quiet tricks. Most of the dangerous decisions were made before the package ever reached your hand. Acorns reveal the older problem. They can fall in enormous numbers, but a fresh acorn can fill your mouth with an intense, drying bitterness. Tannins help protect the nut, and too much exposure can interfere with digestion. So humans changed what reached the body. They cracked the shells, ground the nuts, washed the meal, changed the water, and repeated the process until a chemically defended seed became reliable food.
Nature supplied the acorn. Humans had to finish the meal. Bog butter complicates what we mean by preserved. People placed butter or animal fat in cool, low-oxygen peat bogs, where the environment could slow certain forms of decay. But preserved does not mean unchanged, and surviving for centuries does not mean staying like ordinary fresh butter. Then there is honey. Honey already feels safe. Its sweetness makes it seem familiar. But honey made from certain plants can contain gray anoxidants. Depending on the amount, it can cause nausea, dizziness, low blood pressure, and dangerous changes in heart rhythm. Would you recognize it just by looking? Probably not. Grain created another trap. Grinding turned hard seeds into flour and bread. Storage made those calories last longer, but stored grain could also collect moisture, pests, mold, or toxic fungal contaminations such as ergot. The human solution was never simply eat what nature gives you. It was inspect, separate, dry, grind, soak, store, and remember. Archaeologists find grinding stones, food residues, storage structures, and evidence of repeated processing because this work was systematic. A useful step discovered by one group could be passed on to the next. The ingredient was not yet the food. And if the safety was not stored inside the ingredient, where was it stored? A child reaches toward one part of an animal. An older hand stops them. Not that part. The child asks why. Maybe the adult understands the chemistry. Maybe they only know that people who ignore the rule get sick. From the outside, that can look like superstition, but an incomplete explanation doesn't automatically make the behavior wrong. Cycad seeds make that distinction uncomfortable. They can provide useful calories, but they also contain toxic compounds and have required careful, extended preparation in communities that have used them as food. Some proposed links between certain cycad exposures and diseases that appear much later are still debated. That uncertainty matters, but questioning one long-term hypothesis does not make the seeds harmless. The known danger still required people to preserve a process far more complicated than simply placing the food over a fire. Now consider pufferfish. The danger is not distributed evenly throughout the animal. Tetrodotoxin can be concentrated in certain tissues, which means the difference between a meal and paralysis may depend on anatomy. Would ordinary cooking solve the problem? Not reliably. The person eating the fish is not protected because their body is unusually strong. They are protected because someone else knows which tissues must never reach the plate. The safety is not inside the fish. It is in the trained hand. Polar bear liver takes the idea even further. To a hungry person, it looks like valuable organ meat, fresh, dense, and full of nutrients. But its vitamin A concentration can be dangerously high. Here, the protective instruction is not cook it longer. It is not eat a smaller piece and hope. It is do not eat that organ. Sometimes refusal is the technology. Cassava follows the same human logic, but to a longer sequence. The root can support entire populations, but some varieties contain more cyanogenic compounds than others. Traditional processing may involve several connected stages that reduce the amount that ultimately reaches the body. No single step tells the whole story. The protection comes from completing the established process in the correct order and under the right conditions. That process may be passed from one person to another long before anyone can name the molecules involved. Researchers Alex Masudi and Alex Thornton describe this broader pattern as cumulative cultural evolution. In plain English, each generation does not have to start over with the poison. A useful change can remain in the procedure. The next generation can preserve it, refine it, or add another safeguard. The final method may contain discoveries made by people separated by hundreds of years. The rule remembered what one body could not afford to relearn.
By now, the foods keep changing, but human protection keeps appearing in the same place, outside the body, in a sequence, in a warning, in the person trusted to make the cut, and in the hand that stops the child. If you have ever eaten something you could not safely produce from its original state, then you already live inside someone else's inherited knowledge. But knowledge only protects people as long as they can still use it. Now place 3 people beside the same dangerous ingredient. The first insists on following every step. Wash it again. Wait longer. Do not use that part. Others may see this person as rigid, fearful, or trapped in tradition. The second person is already hungry. There's little clean water, almost no fuel, and nothing safer left to eat. From a distance, their shortcut may look reckless. The third person recognizes only the finished product. They know cassava flour, packaged fish, bread, and refrigerated meat, but not the dangerous stages that were removed before those foods reached the shelf. They may feel like the most advanced person in the scene, but they are also the most dependent on protections they cannot personally reproduce.
The same ingredient creates different behavior depending on who holds the knowledge and who carries the need. Grass pea shows what happens when need becomes stronger than choice. The plant can survive drought when other crops fail, making it valuable during famine. But when people depend on it heavily for long periods, exposure can lead to neurolatherism, a disorder that can impair movement in the legs. The danger is not simply that the plant exists. Occasional use is not the same as desperate dependence. The crop becomes most dangerous at the exact moment it becomes most necessary. Hunger does not remove risk, it removes options. Buried or fermented flesh creates a different kind of trap. Under controlled conditions, fermentation can preserve food. Under the wrong conditions, a process that looks similar from the outside can support dangerous microbial growth and toxin production. The crucial differences may be invisible: oxygen, acidity, temperature, contamination, tissue type, or how the food was sealed. That doesn't mean every traditional fermented food is reckless. It means preservation is a controlled relationship with microbes, not simply meat left waiting underground. A method can preserve the meal. Under the wrong conditions, it can preserve the poison too. Now return to cassava during drought, conflict, or displacement. The community may still know the correct process, but perhaps clean water is limited, fuel is running out, people can't wait, nutrition is already poor, equipment is missing, or the person who knew the full procedure is gone. The knowledge has not become false. The world has simply made it harder to apply. The same chain protects every dangerous food: ingredient, selection, preparation, timing, tools, environment, and teaching.
Break one link, and the old danger can reach the body again. Inherited safety is not the same as immunity. A modern dinner plate hides a chain just as long. Electricity kept the refrigerator cold. Clean water entered the building. Workers controlled the processing. Inspectors checked the facilities. Labels carried warnings. Specialists handled dangerous stages. Regulations eliminated choices most consumers never had to make. That protection is real. Its success is exactly what makes it so difficult to see. The safer the finished product looks, the easier it is to believe the ingredient was harmless all along. But remove the food from the plate for a moment. Leave behind the knife, the water, the press, the fire, the warning, the trained hand, and the person teaching the next person what not to forget. That is part of the meal too. Eating a dangerous ingredient is not the same as making that ingredient edible. A rule without a chemical explanation is not automatically meaningless superstition. And a familiar meal is not automatically a naturally harmless food. This was learned, not by one ancient body strong enough to survive every mistake, but by many vulnerable bodies remembering for the next one. Humans are not the animal that became immune to every poison. we are the animal that learned to remember for one another. One word? Food or knowledge?